around the room and take questions for about 15 minutes. If you guys want to start raising your hands, we'll go ahead with questions. Start with Andrew Crane.
Hey, Grant. Hope everything's going well. When we spoke last year, it was kind of right after you had made the adjustment back to close defense after playing shorty for a couple of years. I guess heading into the offseason, what were you kind of focusing on now that you knew going into this year that you'd be back at close for another full season?
I guess I definitely got to stick with the pole in my hands, although calling it an off season is definitely somewhat of a stretch with the way things ended and the way things were just in general, being able to go out to a facility or something. But honestly, just the key difference, I mean, working out and everything, running, all that stays the same. It's just having a pole in my hands as opposed to not. So just getting to shoot and wall ball, everything that I was doing with a shorty back to a pole just gave me a little bit of extra time.
Were you mostly kind of just working out at your home down in Texas, or was there like gyms open at all, or what were you kind of doing?
Yeah, I had gyms open, and then we have there's a group of kids from my high school that have gone on to play somewhere that we do some like field work stuff with, just running and conditioning type stuff. But gyms were open, so that was really nice to have.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Next, we go to Cameron.
Grant, can you talk a little bit about Mitch Wyckoff and his impact in the past couple games for you guys?
Yeah, Mitch he's been a very welcome addition, I guess. He's been awesome. He's obviously taken that role as kind of the number one cover guy, which, however high of hopes you have for a transfer coming in or anybody in general, that's asking a lot of somebody. But he's done it, splendidly. And something I guess a lot of people probably don't know or you can't see as much because you're focused on his cover guy. He's a fantastic communicator too on the field.
And is communication would you say is one of his best attributes, or do you think leadership also has a big part of that?
I would just say, I mean, he's got a very rounded game. Like just for instance, last year, like somebody like Nick Mellon, who's just a phenomenal cover guy, and that just blows everything out of the water. Not to say other things were bad, but that's just clearly defined as his number one trait. Mitch is just very well-rounded. I mean, he's a great cover guy, as you've seen on people like Matt Moore, but his communication skills are right on par with those covering skills.
Awesome. Thank you, Grant.
Next, we go to Tyler.
Grant, given the fact that the team didn't necessarily find out that you were playing Holy Cross until relatively late in the week, what has been the focus this week in practice?
Last coming off the Vermont game, the focus was ground balls. We felt we really played poorly in that facet of the game. And we had a better outing this past week against Stony Brook, but I think in times past we've kind of seen that success the week after and let that fade. And so I think we've stayed vigilant on our ground ball work. We've kept with it a good bit this week. And then it's just in those first few days when we had, no idea who we were playing, if we were playing, just keeping everybody focused and on the task at hand, not looking too far ahead to the Blue Devils the following week.
And just to follow up, you mentioned not looking ahead to the Blue Devils. I asked Coach the same question yesterday. How are you trying to keep the guys or anyone, leaders on the team specifically, keeping guys, make sure we're focused on the task at hand of Holy Cross?
It's especially even with this scenario with the game getting canceled and then, an unexpected opponent. It's still D1 lacrosse. Like any given day you can slip up, and I think that's something everybody knows here. We felt like we had that slip up against Army. We felt like we had that slip up against Vermont. We just, managed to come out on top. I think people have respect for any team that's going to end up playing us or replaying them. It's definitely tough, but it's still another chance to play, and all of us are fresh off the cancellation last year, so we're all appreciating any chance we get, no matter who it is.
Next, we go to Nate.
Hey, Grant, I was curious, just where do you guys feel like you are in terms of playing up to your potential as a defense? I mean, obviously that Virginia game a few weeks back, particularly the middle of the second half on, was probably as good as I've seen this year. But do you feel like you guys still have a lot of room to grow as a defense still?
Yeah, I definitely think we do. And, you know, like we were talking about Mitch being the addition, as great as he's been, we've played 3 games with him. And even in the beginning of the season, he was somewhat hurt, kind of tentatively playing. So we've had like 3 or 4 weeks with Mitch of playing like full lacrosse 6-on-6. And so I can only see our communication and, you know, entire team chemistry getting better. Um, Having Brett up top is nice again, but I definitely think there's a lot of room to improve. You know, it's just going to be a cohesion thing. It takes time to build.
How about with Porter behind you? How does that help? Needless to say.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you've seen his stat lines. He's phenomenal, and you know, the thing you don't see in the stat lines is how good of a communicator he is, and a lot of the things he does off the field in trying to organize our defensive unit to gain that cohesion, and scout and encourage people to, like, he writes up like kind of things to focus on every week for us. And obviously it takes a lot of pressure off us whenever our goalie tells us, you know, if they're outside of 15 yards and they shoot, I don't care, like, that you did a great job. You know, if we have that sort of, you know, brick wall behind us, it gives us a lot of confidence to play.
What's some of the stuff he writes up for you guys? Like, is it strict scout guy? Is it like scout stuff, or is it ever kind of just get stuff to get you guys motivated ever too?
There's a little bit of both. The majority of it, so for Vermont, for instance, they really like to kind of have delayed, like, most teams initiate off an alley dodge or something, and they would do that. But then Vermont, in particular, even in the past scrimmages we've played them, they do a delayed alley dodge, or they try to get under and like redodge from a very low angle on our short D middies, and like that's just a key feature to recall and focus on. I mean, like last week, it's don't let guys get to the middle and or a certain way we want to play picks. Like, it's those kind of things. And then there's also like some I don't know, supportive, I guess, things.
Yeah. Thanks.
Andrew?
I guess sticking on these messages from Drake, is he like handwriting them and sticking in your locker? Or is he like sending them in like a group chat with like you guys? Like, how are you kind of receiving these notes?
He types it up, and if we're not able to meet in small groups, then he will just send it in like a defensive group message.
Okay. And I guess just quickly, like, how, going back to the Army game, like, how do you think you guys as a unit have evolved since that game? I know Army's coach was saying you guys were playing picks really aggressive that time, and they were able to kind of free up Nick Turn or other guys off of those screens. I guess what went wrong in the Army game, and how did you guys kind of, you know, work to fix those things in practice kind of the week after?
So Army, a lot of it, you know, first game, little practice, that definitely plays an effect. But I don't think we were all on the same page of how we want to play certain things. I mean, alley dodges, like simple slides, that's all fine. Everybody should know that. But the certain sets we get into when we get inverted or when we have a big little behind, that has progressed a lot since then. We've just done a lot better job at understanding where we want everybody to be when we see that situation and we make that call. And, you know, I think in all the 4 years I've been here, big littles have been somewhat of our defense's Achilles heel, and we're just trying to make big leaps into, you know, counterplaying them.
Thank you.
Cameron?
Grant, it just seems like the team camaraderie from the Army game, you mentioned it, that maybe that wasn't you guys at your full potentials with injuries and not really, you know, shortened practices and everything. It just seems like the team camaraderie is up, and it seems like all the freshmen are getting involved, as well as we talked about Mitch getting more involved. It seems like everyone's gelling pretty well together in these past 3 games. Would you say the same?
Definitely. I mean, you know, I think the Virginia game, I mean, losing to Army, obviously that performance didn't meet our expectations. And then having that big win against Virginia after kind of, I don't want to say like brought us where we need to be, but it kind of lit the fire under everybody, if the Army game hadn't already. And that really was just a great like experience for all of us. I think a lot of the new guys that haven't had that big marquee win or haven't even been in a game like that. It was definitely just a jolt of energy, I want to say.
Any more questions for Grant? Otherwise, we'll let him hop off. We got about 2 or 3 more minutes here. Good? All right. Thanks for joining us, Grant.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Graham.